What's up guys, Nick here, and in this video we're going to continue talking about Amazon sponsored ads. Specifically, we're going to go into detail about what match types mean. Let's get started. So now that I've reviewed how I like to set up campaigns, let's go over another important concept, match types. Once you've set up a manual ad campaign, you will be given the opportunity to choose whether your keywords will be a broad, phrase, or exact match. This is obviously confusing for any novice entering the PPC game, so in this lesson I'll be explaining all three types in depth and how we work these types into our overall strategy. First up, we have the broad match type. So the broad match type basically casts the widest net for keywords and matches your product on a broad basis. And by that I mean any word can be added before, in the middle, or after your keyword phrase. And this also includes plurals and misspellings of the original keyword phrase. Now let's go over a couple examples. Let's say your keyword is exercise ball, and we're continuing using this example. In the example, the first one, we have red exercise ball. This is an example of a broad keyword where the word is before. Next, we have red exercise ball for yoga. We have the words before and after, red and for yoga. Then we have exercise fitness ball. There's word in the middle of the keyword phrase. And we have red exercise balls. So there's a word before and there's also plural of the original keyword phrase after. So, there's a lot of variations. There's a lot more opportunities and options for how many times we can do this. We can even do something like red exercise fitness balls for yoga. And you can see that exercise ball is loosely within that entire keyword. It still maintains the actual phrase. However, it adds keywords in between. And ultimately, broad match types give you the most amount of search impressions because you can be placed for potentially an unlimited amount of related searches provided. And the reason for that is because there are an unlimited amount of words that could be included in that keyword phrase. So typically this means that while you will get the most impressions, maybe even clicks that way, you will also potentially blow through a lot of money on wasted clicks because some of the searches might be irrelevant and unqualified. But the real value here is that you can use your broad campaigns to mine keywords that you might have never thought to include in your manual campaigns, and I will talk about that more. But the main point here about broad match type is that it's the most flexible in terms of where it gets matched to, and it is the cheapest, least relevant, and least targeted traffic. And again, these match types only apply to manual campaigns. You cannot specify the match type for auto campaigns. Auto campaigns will place you for whatever. However, these match types are specific to a keyword that you're targeting. So for putting exercise ball, you can specify broad phrase, or match. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Next, we have the phrase match types. So phrase match casts a narrower net than the broad match. And this is how. The keyword phrase, in other words, let's say exercise ball, right, cannot be broken apart. So the variations can only exist before the keyword phrase and after the keyword phrase. Okay, so, and it also, like the broad matching, includes spelling errors, singular, and plural. So let's go through these examples. So red XR size ball. So XR size ball is the original keyword phrase, but in this situation, we have a misspelling of the exercise, which would still be included in phrase and also included in broad. And we also have red, which is before. The difference here between phrase and broad is that phrase will never break up exercise ball and never put something in between that keyword phrase. Okay, so let's go in the next example. We have red exercise ball. Okay, this is no misspelling, just a word before the phrase. We have exercise ball for yoga. Okay, so this would also apply for broad, but in this situation, it's phrase, right? So even though this example is here for phrase, this could potentially also show up for broad. But what would not show up for phrase is, let's say, exercise fitness ball, right? That would never show up for phrase because it breaks up the keyword phrase. Okay, so let's keep going through these examples. We have red exercise ball for yoga practice. Again, that keyword phrase exercise ball is maintained. However, we have alternative words before exercise ball and words after the keyword phrase. Okay, and finally we have exercise balls. Again, this could apply for broad, but if we do red exercise balls, that would also apply for broad. The difference here is that red exercise fitness balls would not show up in the phrase match type. So again, the key difference here is that keyword phrase, in this specific instance, exercise ball, will never be broken up, but it still allows for words before and after the phrase. It includes spelling errors, singular, and plural. And really the difference here when it comes to bids and it comes to traffic is that you will have a medium amount of traffic through these manual campaigns that are phrase match type, but they will be more targeted and more expensive than broad. So naturally, with all paid advertising, the more targeted you get, the more expensive it becomes because there are less people to target, right? And that means that if there are less keywords to target, those keywords naturally are going to be more competitive, right? So that's really what drives the cost and drives the bids up. However, match types can also be effective, and like broad, you can actually mine for additional search terms using broad and phrase. And I will also go into more detail in just a little bit. Next, we have something that's called the exact match type. And this is the final match type that you would be using in your manual campaigns. Once again, you cannot specify match types in auto, only in manual campaigns because it applies to the keyword that you're targeting. Now, if we're going to exact match type, as you might have guessed, this leaves the least room for flexibility and it casts the narrowest net across keywords. So basically, the way it differentiates from a broad and a phrase match is that the keyword phrase must match exactly. It allows plurals, it allows singulars, even allows misspellings, but it does not allow words before, middle, or after. I forgot to include middle here, but again, the difference between this and the phrase is going to be the before, middle, and after. Okay, so let's dive into the examples. I only have a couple here because there are only a couple examples that you can have. Exercise balls, that would be included. The only difference is the plural. Exercise balls, that's the misspelling plus plural, so that applies. You notice there's no before or after keywords of the phrase. And there's exercise ball, which is the exact keyword phrase. Now, naturally, this means that the traffic is going to be the lowest of the three match types, but the most targeted. However, the clicks you receive, while expensive, theoretically should be the most targeted and specific. And so the best way to find good exact match phrases is by using search term reports pulled from your ad report. So if, let's say, you have auto campaigns that you have, or phrase and broad match campaigns, you might find that you're really converting, let's say, for red exercise ball. It seems to be a specific customer search term that you're converting well for. You can plug that into an exact match type for that keyword, and you can bid specifically only for red exercise ball, and your money is only going in that direction. It's going to be the most expensive because naturally there's only one red exercise ball word phrase that exists, but it's also going to be the most qualified because you found that it converts the best. So that's kind of how it differentiates. It goes from, if you're starting at exact, it goes from most expensive traffic but most qualified, all the way to broad, which is least qualified but also cheapest and the most traffic. So that's how paid advertising in general works. In this instance, this is how it applies to Amazon sponsored ads. Now, I touched on this concept in a couple slides, specifically in the broad and phrase, but basically broad and phrase match campaigns provide you with keyword data. And what I mean by this is that similar to how you can go into your auto campaign reports and pull information for what customers are searching for, right? Remember, Amazon is scouring your listing, looking for relevancy and matching you to keywords that they think will convert. You can pull that data from Amazon. In addition to that, you can also use broad and phrase match because it has more flexibility in where you get matched for keywords to basically mine more specific keyword data. So let's go back to the exercise ball example. Let's say, again, that same example, from your phrase match, you notice that red exercise ball specifically converts very, very well. Then you can actually, that's a search term that you might not have had in your campaigns to begin with, that you can then target in your manual campaigns. Let's say with a broad match, you find that red exercise fitness ball for yoga, that seems to convert very, very well. You can then pull that, and you didn't have that in your campaigns originally. It was based off of just the exercise ball keyword, but Amazon placed you for that key term, and you can see that in the search term report. That's the term that you would then take and target specifically in your manual campaigns. You can't do that in the exact match simply because you're not going to get much variation of information in the exact match, right? Maybe you'll get misspellings, and that's something that you could input. But beyond that, there's not going to be much keyword data that you'll find that's variable enough for you to target in your manual campaign. So remember, the best way to basically pull and mine keywords is looking at your auto campaigns, your broad match campaigns, and your phrase match campaigns. And I like, you don't have to break out your match types into a campaign. But again, remember, I talked about the fact that I like to separate them out by campaigns because we can manage the budget. The same principle applies here. we're going to talk about this later, but I break out all my campaigns based off of a specific match type. And that makes it way easier for me to organize everything and understand where everything is coming from. So tying it all together, you might be asking at this point, which ones do we use? And the answer is all of them. Soon, I'll be introducing you to the strategy that I utilize, which incorporates all 3 match types in separate campaigns for the maximum control. But before we get into that, let's cover another important concept, the average cost of sale, which is what I will dive into in the next video. All right, guys, I hope you found this lesson useful. If you have any questions specific to this video, please leave them in the comments below or give us a shout in the Facebook group. Otherwise, keep making moves, keep learning, and I will see you in the next video.